So this is an event about DIY, and in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you my DIY guide on how you can be a campaigner. It's not going to help you put up shelves at home, but I hope that it might help some of you stir things up a little bit. So today is an incredibly exciting time for UK politics. I don't mean the grey suits in Westminster or the same voices that we hear over and over again on the Today programme. I mean the mums campaigning to save their housing estates in London, the 16-year-olds on the streets of Glasgow voting for the first time, and the tech-savvy organisers bringing communities together right here in Birmingham. People are realising that you don't have to wait for your turn to vote, and you don't have to wait for politicians to act on your behalf. We have the power to get out there and change things for ourselves. People are setting the agenda and winning on the change that they want to see. And it's happening because people's passions are being turbocharged by the internet. I see it every day in my role at change.org. People come to our site and they start a petition on an issue that they care about. And they find a community of people who want to support them. Since we've started, 16 million people around the world have started or signed a winning petition. And I think at a time when we feel sometimes that our voice doesn't count or that we can't change anything, 16 million people winning the change that they want to see, it matters and it's important. So today, I want to give you the secrets of those campaigns. What was it that got those 16 million people victory? How can you use the web to win? So like all good formula, there are three things that you need. You need a story, you need a community, and you also need the little big thing, which we'll come back to. Let's start with the story. I want to tell you about a young boy called Josh and his journey home. This is Josh with his dad, Phil. Josh is just 13 years old and he has a beautiful smile and he loves going for walks with his family. He also has very serious autism, and it's a kind of autism that means that he has a tendency to hurt himself and self-harm. So he needs specialist care 24 hours a day. And 2 years ago, he was moved to a care unit right here in Birmingham to get that care. That's 500 miles away from his family who live in Cornwall. So his dad's had to travel 5 hours every weekend just to see him. And Josh hasn't even met his little sister yet. Now, the NHS in Cornwall said, well, we're really sorry, but we just don't have the services for you here. Phil couldn't take that. He wanted to bring his family back together. So he went online and he just started a petition. He told his story and he shared it. In one day, 10,000 people signed Phil's petition. Suddenly, the media were picking up the phone. They wanted to speak to him. And he also got a phone call from the local NHS in Cornwall. And it turned out the CEO had seen the petition and the interest, and he would like to meet him. So Phil said, great, like, when can I meet you? I've been wanting to meet you, for 2 years now. Oh, no, the CEO would like to meet you at your convenience, Phil. The power's in your hands now. So everything changed for Phil just in a couple of days. It's 4 months since Phil started his petition. He now has 200,000 signers, and the local NHS in Cornwall have agreed to fund care for Josh back home. So Josh is on his way home. The power of Phil's petition was that he didn't just talk about politics or NHS bureaucracy. He simply told his story, which was about a dad who wanted to care for his son. And each and every one of us can relate to that. And it's really easy to forget in this world of kind of 24-hour news when we have never-ending information thrown at us and political sound bites. Always remember the power of your story. People will relate to it, and that is what will inspire them to act. So once you've told your story, the next step is to build a community. You might recognize in this photo Caroline Criado Perez. Caroline ran the incredibly successful campaign to get a woman on a banknote. And the reason her campaign was successful was because she knew how to use her community. Now, the first step to growing a community is to get some signers. And there's a few ways to do that. But it starts quite simply by email. Email your petition to everyone you know and ask them to email it to everyone they know. It sounds incredibly basic, but actually quite a lot of people forget to do this. Now, if you're like me, your first signer is probably your mum. But once you've got your first signer, you're away. And the reason email is really important over things like Twitter is that if you think about it, a tweet will only be in your timeline for a very short moment. An email is more personal, it's more direct, and more people take action through email. So social movements, they aren't actually built on social websites like Twitter or Facebook. They're actually powered through email. And once you've got your first signers, and it honestly doesn't matter if it's 10 people, 110 people, or 10,000 people, that's your community. Every single one of those people is someone who's putting their hand in the air and saying, I support you and I want to help. So respect that. Let them help you. Tell them what it is that you need them to do. Caroline did this. She emailed everyone who'd signed her petition. And it actually wasn't the biggest petition on change.org at the time, but she really mobilized those people well. She asked them to turn up outside the Bank of England on a hot Friday morning, dressed in fancy dress. And over 30 strangers who didn't know each other came dressed as Boudicca and Emily Pankhurst. I was stood outside the Bank of England with her, and I didn't really think many people would turn up, let alone dress up. And you just saw people crossing the road in these crazy outfits, on their own, making that journey down to the Bank of England. And they marched up and down outside the Bank of England until you could see in every single window the bankers that worked there peering out with their iPhones taking photographs. And Caroline, with no money and no budget, she'd got her campaign notice because you knew that every banker in that office was going to be talking about what was going on outside their office at lunchtime. They were going to be talking about Caroline's campaign. So she'd got noticed. Someone else that signed her petition was an equality lawyer. And she said to Caroline, I think you have a case here. You could make a claim against the Bank of England. So they put together a legal case. Then they needed to fund that. And so Caroline emailed her community again. And in 1 week, they raised £13,000, enough to fund the legal change. So Caroline had gone from Caroline on her own and a petition to Caroline, a petition, a lawyer, £13,000 in the bank, and this rowdy crowd that wouldn't take no for an answer. And everything changed. The Bank of England agreed to her claim. And in a few years' time, you're going to have Jane Austen on a banknote because of Caroline. So don't underestimate the people that have signed your petition. Talk to them, email them, tell them what you need them to do. Every single one of them wants to help you. And if you use them properly, that is how you will turn your petition into a community and then into a movement. Now, I said at the beginning there was a third thing that you needed. And this is the thing that if you get a petition emailed to you, and I might email you a few petitions, you might have some emails from me, it's probably the thing that if it's there, it makes you click quickly and sign it. But if it's missing, and you won't even realize that it's missing, it's probably the thing that makes you think, you know what, I've signed lots of these things, I'm quite busy, I'm going to skip this one. It's to do with what the petition asks for. Successful petitions always ask for something really small. We call it the little big thing. So if you think back to Phil's petition, of course, he just asked for his son Josh to come home. But in doing so, he opened up this big debate about the postcode lottery of our health system. And he's actually now in touch with over a dozen families in exactly the same situation, and they're organising together to change the system. Caroline, she just wanted a woman on a banknote. And in doing so, there was this big debate in the media about how we recognise women in history. And one of the people that signed Caroline's campaign this year went on to start her own petition to get mothers recognised on marriage certificates. So the small things matter. Focus on the small, little things, and then multiply it. Each victory adds to this bigger picture of change. Because winning a petition, winning a campaign, it is number one, the most powerful thing you can do to inspire activism. That feeling of winning is addictive. People want to win more and more. So when you start your campaign, don't get lost in this big thing that you want to change. Break it down, small steps at a time. That is how you inspire and fuel your movement. Small victories adding up. And that's it. It's very simple. 3 things to change the world. Tell your story, build your community, and focus on the little thing, big little thing. And for many people across the UK, they're realising now that they don't have to wait for the elections. They can get out there and change the things that they want to change. Because politics doesn't have to be something that someone else does to you. You can do politics for yourself. We all have a story to tell. I believe we all have a campaign inside of us. And now we have the tools to bring that to life. So my question to you is, what will you change? Thank you.